people. We just wanted to make sure that okay, we just wanted to make sure that all is good right here. Then we'll bring people on board to join the conversation. It's nice to have you here once again.
Yeah, and thank you once again. A couple of my my work colleagues might listen into the live stream on YouTube, if that's all right.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yes, yes, yes. So
We're
we will
live on
have
YouTube now.
okay.
Oh, fantastic.
Okay, it's exactly 11 a.m. right here in Nigeria. So we're super excited to have different people joining us all over Nigeria. So if you're just joining us, we still have some people in the waiting room that are joining us right now. But if you are just joining us, I want to welcome you. And I also like to say that we'll be recording this Youth SDGs Cafe for this quarter. So if you're just joining us, I want to welcome you to this interesting conversation. We've been anticipating this conversation, and it is great to know that we are finally here today. We are finally here today. Please confirm if you can hear me. And if you are just joining, please leave a message in the chat box. Let us know if you are here with us. If you are here, just leave a message in the chat box. Leave a message in the chat box and say, hello, I'm here, I'm super pumped to be part of this engagement. Okay. Okay, hello, Cabri. Nice to have you here. Okay, we want to have as much people who have joined. Just leave a message in the chat box. Let's know where you're joining us from. Just introduce yourself. Hi, my name is this. I'm joining from this organization. This is what I do. Please, I'm here to connect, to network, to learn, and just share briefly what your expectations are. So if you're just joining us, just kindly leave a message where you're joining us from, and we'll be taking that in the chat box because we want to connect with everybody. This is just like the first, this is like the first Youth SDGs Cafe for this quarter, right? So we'll have more to come. So okay, someone is saying they can't hear anything. Please, can you confirm that if you can hear me? If you can hear me, I also want to see that in the comment section. If you can hear me, Akume said that he can't hear any sound from his end. Can you hear me? Just drop that in the comment section. Ochiche, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you, please. I'm typing, so I can hear you.
Okay. I think Akume, I think you may want to check your mic to confirm it from the end. Please, Akume, please. Okay. Okay, please stay muted. Please stay muted. We'd like this place to be orderly and everybody to have the conversation together because it's going to be an interesting conversation and we want everybody to flow through. So if you're just joining us, leave a chat in the comment section, leave a message, introduce yourself. Okay, Alex said he can hear me loud and clear. Alex is joining us from Maiduguri, that's Borno State. So can we have more people signify in the comment section where you're joining us from, what you do, and what you're looking to gain from this session? Because we would like to get your expectations. Our speaker is right here, and she is super excited and ready to move over the entire engagement with us. So we'll just give a few minutes for that to just get to know ourselves too. Okay, I want to take everything from the comment section because I want to make sure that we have people from diverse audience, people from different parts of Nigeria. Okay, Eminem says that she's from the development report. Wow, that's beautiful. And she's joining us here. Zachary said that he's joined us from Lafia, Nasarawa State. Wow, this is beautiful. Thank you for joining us, Zachary. Udeme Akume said that he joined us from Makurdi. Okay. Adedoyin is joining us from Lagos. She's a program specialist at One African Child Foundation for Creative Learning. Can we keep that coming? Let's keep that coming. It would be great to know, and for just in the next few minutes to get back to that, we'll want to be sure that we're able to meet and connect with people. Please, if you're just joining us, please keep.
Hi, Praise. Hi, Praise. I think you're muted.
Oh, sorry about that. I was just speaking.
Okay.
If you're just joining, thank you. If you're just joining, please stay muted. And if your environment is not okay, you can please turn off your video until when we want to have like a virtual snapshot, then we can have our videos back on. Rebecca is joining us from Oyo State. Wow, we have a lot of people from different parts of Nigeria joining us. We just want to make sure we get to know each other because this conversation will keep going, and our speaker wants to meet everybody. Like she's super pumped, like she's ready to meet everyone. Yes. Okay, Esther is joining us from Oyo. Yes. Okay. Excel is a programs assistant at Innocent Chukwemeka Chukuma Empowerment Foundation, Lagos. Great to have you here, Isioma Excel. Taiwo from Yali Network, Ogun State. Wow, we're super excited to have people from Yali Network, and we're expecting more people to join us. It's an interesting conversation, and we have been anticipating for today, for this meetup where young people will come together. We are not only learning, but we are networking. So if I were in your shoes, I just met someone that's from Borno State. Immediately, I would just drop a hi to the person. Hi, I am also based in Borno State. I'm also in the developmental space. I'm also driving sustainable development, and I would like to know more of what you do. This is the way you get to connect and to meet people. So this is an opportunity, but this is a platform for use by use to drive sustainable development. So we have yes, okay, we have Alex from Alex Ibrahim from Wash in Borno State. That's great. That's great. So let's just keep it coming. We'd like to meet everyone here. If you're just joining us, please stay muted. And if your environment is not conducive, you can just turn off your video while we proceed. Okay, my name is Praise Okeze. Let me introduce myself again. My name is Praise Okeze from Nigerian Youth SDGs. And we're super excited to have everybody join us today for the Youth SDGs Cafe. You know, some people may be wondering, what is the Youth SDGs Cafe? Let me give you a brief background of what the Youth SDGs Cafe is about. The Youth SDGs Cafe started in 2018 in partnership with United Nations Information Center, that's unique, and the United Nations Association of Nigeria as a monthly meetup with young people, sustainability professionals, and youth stakeholders majoring on different topics around sustainability and the SDGs, and also actions for young people to take. Through this cafe session, we are bringing together youth and youth stakeholders in the field of sustainability to learn from one another and to network. The aim of the session is to maximize the engagement and impact of young people in driving sustainable development. Also, to raise awareness about the SDGs and encourage advocacy efforts among young people to promote the importance of sustainable development. So we are super excited to have everyone gathered here joining us today. Like what we said, it's going to be a fantastic time. It is a session for youth and by youth to lead sustainable development. And like what we've been doing generally, if you just join us, introduce yourself in the comment session. So moving forward, we'll be having our speaker. We'll be having our speaker who is already here, and we are so excited to have her. I'm just going to give like a brief introduction, and she will come on board and lead us on an expert section on sustainability from poverty to power, learnings from
Hello,
sustainable
sir.
development. Please stay muted if you are
Yes,
just
sir.
joining us. Please
Sir,
stay
mo kàn fẹ́
muted.
confirm Fiat Global if it's
Please stay muted if you are just joining us. We'll love everyone to be on the same page. If you're just joining us, stay muted and use the chat box. Okay. I also want to use the opportunity to recognize each and everyone who are joining us from different parts of the country, members of the SDGs, representatives from Yali, and different people. We are super excited to have you all here. And right now, we'll be moving to the expert section by our speaker. So just give me a second to introduce our speaker. Lyons is the deputy head of the Sustainable Development and Financing team in the UK's Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, FCDO. She leads on the FCDO's policy towards the Sustainable Development Goals and is a long-time SDG fan. She has worked in the FCDO for 5 years, and in that time, she has held positions on secondment to the UK's Climate Change Committee, in conflict and stabilization, and in the national security space. If you're here joining us today and you are super excited to be here, please make some noise in the comment section as I welcome on board our speaker, Rose. Hi, Rose. Nice to have you here.
Hi, Praise, and it is genuinely really, really awesome to be here. I've been really excited about this session, and I'm now going to do something very scary, which is to try and be technologically advanced enough to share my screen and get my presentation up. So thank you, thank you for bearing with, and thank you for inviting me as well. Let me know if you can all hopefully see that.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Fantastic. So before I launch in, I just wanted to give a little overview of what I'm going to say, and thank you for picking such a fantastic and important topic as well, Praise and others in the Nigeria Youth Cafe team. I'd really like to use this session to do kind of three key things. One is just to give a bit of an outline on the global conversations towards the Sustainable Development Goals, some of the key thinking, key challenges. The second is to hopefully give some practical insights and tips from a sort of UK perspective, but a bit beyond as well, on how we can use the SDGs to really move from poverty to power, and build a better world for all by 2030, which is obviously the overarching aim of the SDGs. And the third thing I'd really like to do, if this talk goes well, is to hopefully leave you all with a sense of real, I guess, empowerment and maybe hope that we can all be agents of change, and all of us have a really important role to play in delivering the SDGs. And it is going to be a sort of 40-minute presentation. I've got questions on the slides to sort of prompt discussion. But no matter how interesting the topic, and obviously the SDGs are the most interesting topic in the world, I don't want to witter on for too long. So if anyone has any thoughts, ideas, or challenge as we go along, please just put your hand up. I'll pop a question in the chat, and I'm, super happy to sort of take those as we go as well. Finally, I just wanted to say that this conversation is happening at a really important moment for both the SDGs and the world. So last year we heard from a UN report that actually only 15% of SDG targets are on track. Now, this is for a whole mixture of reasons, from ODA cuts, obviously the huge impact of the pandemic, economic shocks, adverse effects from climate change, increasing wars and conflict, including in Ukraine and Gaza. All of these things have really knocked the SDGs off course. But last year, in 2023, the world gathered at the SDG summit. And actually, I think we saw a few green shoots of hope, where the world came together and recommitted to the SDGs, saying they're still important and we want to get them back on track through to 2030. So really this year, following that up, key thing is going to be acceleration, getting the SDGs back on track, and really starting to focus on how we can drive delivery and also solutions. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here and to be talking to you all about this. Let me just try and click the slide along. So I wanted for us to all get to know each other a little bit better. So I wanted to just wonder if anyone wanted to be brave and put their hand up and talk about their SDG superhero, sort of get us feeling excited and passionate. So it'd be really great to hear people's views or perspectives if there's someone who's really inspired them on sustainable development or someone they really look up to. I would absolutely love to hear those. And I'll pause to see if anyone wants to put their hand up or praise on the team you have anyone in mind as well.
Okay, you're actually putting me on the spot right now. You're actually putting me on the spot right now. Yes, just like Rose have just explained to us, right? So she would like to get who are our SDG superhero? Do you have someone who you are excited about or who you know, oh, this person is leading the SDGs? Okay, for me right now, I would actually say is Joshua Alade. Joshua Alade is actually the ED of Nigerian Youth SDGs, and he is doing super amazing leading the sustainable development among youth. So the vision is actually to ensure the meaningful engagement of young people through programs and policies that will enable them to lead and thrive. And we have been doing that over the years. And Joshua Alade is championing this cause. So that is it for me. Over to everyone in the chat box. Just kindly drop someone you know that is leading sustainable development in your environment or in wherever you're joining from, or your location or your state or someone you just admire inside Nigeria, outside Nigeria. There are some in the comment section. Do you want to take that now in the chat box, or do I just read it out for you?
That would be great to read it out. I'm worried if I click the chat, it will will annoy the technology. Thanks, Praise.
Okay, that's fine. So Bisola said, "Has is Sheun Olagunju? She inspires her, and she is at the top of." Okay, she inspires me to be on top of my game. I found her on LinkedIn. Wow. Someone said mine is Professor Namono. Okay, you may want to tell us what SDGs the Professor Namono focused on. Am I right, Ruth? So that we actually know, is it SDG 2, SDG 3? Is it good health and well-being? Is it quality education? Is it no poverty? Just let us know in the comment section who your SDG hero is. Even if it's you, that would be super exciting, right? We'll also be excited to celebrate you for championing sustainable development goals. So, okay. Bisola said Sharon is into SDGs 4, 13, and 15. Yeah. So they'll keep the comment, and I will be sure to like let you know to where we have more comments in the chat box.
That's brilliant, Praise. Thank you. And I totally agree. Joshua is also one of mine. So great answer for that. So thank you for all those answers. It's sometimes just good to think about who is really inspiring us, who is motivating us to keep going. So in terms of one of my SDG superheroes, it's Hello Kitty. No, I'm just kidding. So weirdly, Hello Kitty is one of the official SDG mascots. But actually, who I would like to talk about is someone who is way cooler than me, and that is my 13-year-old younger sister, Rosa. At her school, she realized that people just weren't really recycling, they weren't really taking sustainability seriously. And so what she did was she started fundraising to actually raise money to get recycling bins into her school, and then asked her teachers if in every sort of grade they could assign a recycling monitor to sort of think about this and monitor this, which is, pretty awesome for a young person to have the initiative to do. And I kind of raised that point because I think sometimes there's almost a misconception with big sort of UN frameworks like the SDGs that only, people in government, etc., have a role to play in delivering them. But actually, I think, for me, my little sister really encompasses the point that we all have a role to play, and a really important role to play in sort of delivering the SDGs, and all of us can make a really big difference. So yeah, she definitely inspires me. So moving on to my actual presentation, I was going to talk about 10 reasons to really love the SDGs, and as with the theme of today's session, how they can help us move from poverty to power. So, reason number one. Oh, sorry about that. Bit of feedback there. So reason number one is that the SDGs provide a shared vision and a common language to describe our efforts. So for me, the SDGs are really a bit of a miracle of multilateralism. They were signed up to in 2015 by 193 countries, every country in the world. It is very difficult to get countries, particularly at the moment, to agree on many things. So this was sort of a real energizing and step change moment. But as well as all governments in the world signing up to, what makes the SDGs feel really special and really different is the fact that 8.5 million citizens, as well as many businesses, religious organizations, civil society organizations, academics, and institutions also all came out and backed the goals, which gives them a sense of legitimacy and consensus that I don't think has actually ever been seen on the world stage. And actually, I think why the SDGs are so powerful is that having a shared vision we're all working towards is really important. Oh, sorry, I think a little bit of feedback there again. Because it means that all of our levers are pulling in the same direction. So rather than people sort of working over here on really important things, people working over here on really important things, actually, if we have a common aim, a common vision we're all working towards, that means that we'll have an even greater impact and be more than the sum of our parts. The SDGs also provide common language, which means we can all understand each other and what we're doing. For example, no matter where I go in the world, who I'm talking to, whether someone from Nigeria or Indonesia or Japan or Iraq, if I start talking in the language of the SDGs, talking about SDG 2 on food, others will understand me and what we're trying to do. Sorry about that. Sorry, was that at my end, Praise, just before I continue and hurt everyone's ears again?
Sorry. Tafio, please, can you mute? I think that's coming from one of our participants. So sorry for the interruption.
No problem at all. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't, hurting SDG 3 by hurting everyone's ears.
Sorry.
Thanks for muting. No problem at all. So yeah, having a common language is actually really, really powerful. It means that we can work across borders to a set of common aims too. The second reason is that the SDGs are actually a really positive platform for partnerships. And I think that's something, Praise, that you were talking about earlier, like talking about meeting up with people from the same state as you who are working on similar things. And actually, one of the reasons the SDGs can provide that is because they apply universally. So to every country, meaning that they apply as much to the UK as they do to Nigeria. And I think that that can be really powerful and really important because it kind of moves you past maybe older, slightly outdated ways of viewing partnerships between different countries, and actually means that you become two equal partners working together towards a sort of shared vision, shared set of aims. And actually, it's sort of almost a bit of humility, that whole thing of like, I have as much to learn from others as I have to give. And actually, it's sort of like a really good way of, I think, conducting these modern equitable relationships that the world is moving towards. The SDGs are also, by their nature, really multi-stakeholder. They bring a diverse range of voices, perspectives, and skills to a problem. And this is really powerful. There's a lot of research and evidence now that shows that the more diverse perspectives you have, whether that's sort of like in terms of gender, in terms of job, in terms of life experience, in terms of sort of disability, you will come up with a much better and more innovative outcome. So actually, if you have a problem in your community that you're trying to solve, the SDGs can be a good way of bringing in people from the private sector, from research institutions, from faith organizations, all to work together. They're also quite a nice way of partnering with people we may not always agree with. Some of my counterparts internationally, we might have a few things that we don't see eye to eye on. But actually, when we start talking about the SDGs, because they are such a positive framework, we find that actually we have a lot more in common than not. And that is really, really, I think, a powerful tool. They're also quite a good way of sort of sharing, collaborating, and learning. Because I think the big part of the challenge is that the solutions on the SDGs, on a whole sort of raft of sustainable development issues, they exist and they're out there. But sometimes what's really, really hard is actually finding what they are, working with others or identifying others who are trying to address similar challenges and sort of coming up with solutions together. So actually that point of like networking, connecting, being like, oh, you're doing that, that's really interesting. I'm trying to solve a similar problem. How have you found it? What can we do together? The SDGs are a really good sort of platform for that, and that's absolutely vital. I just wanted to give a couple of examples from sort of like my work or people that I've come across who I think have done this quite well. So in Ghana, every year they have an annual private sector forum where basically they, I think, focus on young people, sort of young inventors, young innovators, sort of bring them together with members of the private sector so they can easily sort of like get investment and scale up their sort of innovative solutions, which otherwise might not sort of get the attention that they deserve. So that's just sort of one example of ways that you can bring different people together under the banner of the SDGs to really finance and sort of get moving on solutions. And also my SDG Superfans group that I work with a colleague on. And this is bringing together sort of people from a bunch of different institutions, different areas of work, and we convene them to talk through sort of the UK's SDG policy. And although it hurts my ego sometimes to be challenged and told that, you know, what we're doing is wrong, actually it's really, really helpful and has built a sort of a lot of trust and actually led to a lot of good collaboration and much better work. I think the third reason that the SDGs are so awesome is that they are interlinked and reinforcing. And what I mean by that is the SDGs are sort of inherently all connected. That's how they were designed. You know, the three dimensions of sustainability are very holistic in that way. So social, environmental, and economic. The idea being, when they were sort of originally designed, that making progress on one SDG can actually have really positive impacts on a whole bunch of other SDGs. So one of the big examples is sort of SDG 5 on gender equality. There is a lot of evidence that shows that investing in women and girls massively sort of has a positive impact across pretty much every other SDG as well. But one of the key challenges with the SDGs over the last sort of 7 years that they've been enacted is this challenge of, you know, did we create 17 silos? Because often people who are working on food might work on food over here, people on climate action over there. And actually, there is so much more we could do to build those bridges. And so something that we're thinking about a lot in the UK at the moment, trying to work in partnership with others on this, is saying that, you know, more money is vital to deliver the SDGs. We have to address the huge financing gap and get more investment. But actually, we also, with 6 years to go, need to find out how to spend it that has the absolute greatest impact. So, what are really the game changers for the SDGs? And we're trying to sort of look at and build the evidence base on what those game changers might be. So, understanding these synergies and how we can use them to actually accelerate progress. So, for example, if I'm thinking about designing a water or sanitation program, I should also start thinking about, you know, how can we link this into SDG 4 education, or how can I link this into food systems as well? So really trying to break down those silos and actually think about the transformative systems that need to be in place and how all of these things interact to actually get to a really good result. And some interesting examples of this that I've come across are from Mexico and Indonesia, which I'll talk about. So Mexico has a great idea of designing what they call round policies and programs, which is that whenever you're designing an intervention or a solution for the SDGs, you have to make sure that they hit all three markers of sustainability, so social, environmental, and economic at once. And actually, I thought that was a pretty cool idea in the way of, you know, making sure that your work is having an impact across the framework, not just on sort of one SDG at a time. And Indonesia takes a sort of really cool nexus approach, I think, to energy, water, and food. And this means that actually sort of the interventions they design have the ability to have a multiplier effect across multiple goals as well. And I think really a key thing is intentionality. So with any program, you might design it and might accidentally have wider benefits, but actually shifting that mindset to really think, you know, almost like a challenge. How many SDGs can I achieve with this thing that I'm doing? How can I think about it that way? And I think, you know, poverty is a really interesting one. So SDG 1, they've done quite a lot of research that shows that programs that are designed that may have positive impacts on poverty are great, but actually programs that intentionally have an aim to eradicate poverty are a huge percentage more likely to actually achieve that aim. So actually really being intentional with how we're designing policies, programs, solutions is a vital part of turbocharging SDG delivery. I promise I'm going to stop talking for a bit and have another question for the group, which is, can you think of examples from your own experience or own work that have delivered against more than one SDG or in a synergistic way? Thanks. I'll stop there for now.
Okay, thank you, Ruth. Please can you confirm if you can hear me? I'm getting a bit of an echo.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Can you also see me? Can you see
Yes,
me?
I can see you.
Okay, let me go ahead for now. Ruth, just okay. Thank you, Akume. Thank you. We have a lot of people joining us. So our speaker is just like having a pause, and she wants to know that do you actually know how many people? Do you have anyone who has actually implemented the SDGs across different projects? So what SDGs was their focus on? Have they taken on more than one sustainable development goals? Because one thing I have just picked up from what our speaker has just explained so far, she's talking about being able to link what you do. Okay, let me say my focus is on good health and well-being, but not just looking at just good health and well-being, but how do you actually link this to food security? How do you link this to no poverty? How do you link this to decent work and economic growth? How do you link this to other SDGs? So that at the end of the day, you're not just actually achieving a particular sustainable development goal, but you're actually carrying out and taking appropriate actions, even as a youth leader, to achieve other sustainable development goals. So can you drop that in the comment section? Who do you know that okay, their focus is on SDG 1, but beyond SDG 1, they've been able to work on quality education. They focus on no poverty. They have they ensure provision of food and food items for maybe out of school children or for youth. But beyond that, they're also tackling quality education. So we'd like to know that in the comment section. Just drop that in the comment section. Who is an SDG champion? Who is an SDG change maker that is carrying out and implementing a sustainable development goal beyond just one SDG. Okay, while we wait for participants to drop that, I also want to Ruth, can I go ahead to just mention your first question? We still had some responses we did not take. So I'd like to just read them out so that you just get to hear the people that they say are their SDG superhero. Can I go ahead? Hi Ruth.
Yeah, please do. Sorry, I muted myself.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, for some people in the comment section, someone is said is Professor Amwa. He's an advocate of quality agricultural products and the chairman of director of GMO Foods. He's a lecturer. Wow, that's interesting to know that a lecturer is also an advocate for the SDGs. Someone said, I am a superhero. Ah, Kabri, and we still I'd say I am a superhero. Oh, there's a big thumbs up for you, Kabri. He said, I'm your superhero. I'm big on raising bars on goal 6, 7, 13, and 17. Wow. We already have Cabri already hitting different goals. So that's that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, let's just keep that coming. Okay. Someone said my main target is SD. Okay, Charles Mweze said my main target is SDG 3, but I've carried a nationwide campaign on SDG 4. That's quality education. Currently, I'm working on climate advocacy and SDG 15. So he is a director at NIMASA SDGs. You may want to explain that so that our speaker will catch up on the organization and their words. Yeah, yeah, I'm familiar with their words. So we can just keep that coming. Just say different SDGs you may be focused on, or you know someone who is actually hitting at one SDG, but beyond that they're expanding. So this just trying to buttress the point our speaker has raised about not just focusing on an SDG, but ensuring that the goal that you are focusing on is also helping achieve other goals. So that way you are contributing effectively to driving sustainable development goals beyond just focusing on a particular sustainable development goals. So I want to get that. Okay, we are still expecting more responses. then yes, you just keep that coming in the comment section. We want to take all because it's a focused conversation. We want to meet and hear your thoughts also. Okay, while we keep that coming, I would think I'll hand over to our speaker to go ahead, and later we'll come back to the chat box.
Brilliant. I'm really looking forward to reading the chat after as well. And I'm really grateful that someone was just talking about sort of being a climate advocate because that is the main theme of the next slide. It might just take a second to load. Let me know if you can see that. It might just take a minute.
Okay, we can see your slide.
Great. Does it say number 4? It may have moved on
It's
for you.
actually at number 3.
Ah, okay, here we go. It's
Okay,
jumped
number
into
4.
action.
Yes.
Brilliant. Thanks. So thinking about this sort of synergies point a bit more for a second, actually the SDGs for the first time as a framework were quite unique in that they actually tried to bridge the gap between climate action and development together, which is something that hadn't been done in previous development frameworks like the Millennium Development Goals. And this is absolutely, for me, probably one of the most vital and urgent questions we need to be answering and finding solutions to. So I probably don't need to tell this group in particular, but climate change is one of the biggest threats to sustainable development and development. I think the World Bank estimates that it could push over 100 million people back into poverty by 2030. It impacts everything from conflict, state fragility, to obviously sort of like droughts, clean water, the air we breathe, food security. So climate is going to impact on pretty much every SDG there is in probably quite a negative way. And sometimes actually there are sort of perceived trade-offs between development and tackling climate change, particularly when it comes to sort of, governments trying to prioritize what to fund first, whether to invest in mitigation or adaptation or in health or education. So this is, a really serious challenge that the world is facing at the moment. But actually there is some good news, which is that we are slowly building the evidence base that shows that actually there are positive benefits between climate and nature action and delivering on development and delivering on the SDGs. And actually, a key way to eradicate poverty might actually be through climate and nature action. So there are some really fantastic examples of this, from developing climate resilient crops that can be grown all year round, to localized clean energy, so people and communities building their own solar power to provide clean and affordable energy to multiple households, expanding social protection, so sort of like social safety nets if people are hit by a climate disaster. They can still have their sort of income protected. And actually, even going back to that intentionality point, if you are designing, or you're a government designing a adaptation measure, whether that's sort of like, building wells in different places, building seawalls, or investing in mitigation, so moving to clean energy, electrification, or sort of planting more trees. Actually, there are ways of ensuring that those interventions also have a positive benefit for local communities, for prosperity, and actually can be used to eradicate poverty. So last year, the UK released a development white paper, which really focuses on getting the SDGs back on track. And actually, the sort of central strategic goal within that white paper, which is sort of a parliamentary instrument to sort of say, this is what we're going to do through to 2030. The central goal was to tackle climate change, biodiversity loss, and poverty together. So, this is something we're really thinking about and want to work with a whole bunch of people on how to actually, get those solutions in place and do that quite urgently. So for me, this is, to get the SDGs back on track, one of the most critical questions. And it'd be great to hear people's perspectives later on if they've seen this done well, what ideas they have, and so forth. So the fifth good thing about the SDGs is their promise to leave no one behind. So some of you may have come across this principle before, but leaving no one behind is the sort of fundamental underpinning principle of Agenda 2030 and the SDGs. And there's a quote here from UNDP on what that means. So it is a commitment from all UN member states to eradicate poverty in all its forms, end discrimination, exclusion, reduce inequalities and vulnerabilities that leave people behind, and undermine the potential of individuals and of humanity as a whole. And I think this quote really sort of exemplifies why this is actually like a really, really vital bit of achieving sustainable development and moving from poverty to power. Because leaving no one behind isn't just sort of like a nice moral obligation, but actually there is a lot of evidence that shows that it is absolutely critical to delivering prosperity for all and actually delivering good policy. So this is really about looking at, what is causing people to be left behind, and so sort of removing those barriers systematically. And a couple of ways I've seen this be really impactful are this quite amazing piece of technology in Japan. So there's a cafe in Japan that is run by robots, essentially. But the thing about these robots is that they are actually operated by people with disabilities who can't sort of leave their homes, but still really want to work and to contribute. And actually, this sort of innovation, and they did some interviews with these people, sort of like being behind these robots and operating these robots. And they said, for the first time that they actually felt like they could really contribute to society, that they were included, that they had a sense of belonging. It was really good for their mental health. Obviously, it meant they had an income and can financially support themselves. And so that was one I thought really powerful example of how leaving no one behind can have positive benefits for both people and society. And also, when I was in Uganda quite a few years ago and sort of lived there for a while, one example of this I came across was a school that had been set up specifically for blind children who often face quite a lot of barriers to education, to sort of getting to school, to interacting, to playing. And actually, I saw firsthand like the massive impact that actually making sure that every child, no matter what barriers they might be facing, can get to school, can get an education, and can sort of have a meaningful and fulfilling life. That has really stayed with me over the years of something, I thought just really exemplified why it is so important to make sure that no one is left behind. So really in my own work, and in your own work too, I think it is always good to sort of like be checking ourselves, thinking, who is missing from the table? Why might they be missing from the table? What are their perspectives and needs, and how we can include them? Another good example of this, which I hope you'll find as sort of funny and want to put your head in your hands as much as I did. But after a tsunami had unfortunately hit, I think, Sri Lanka, there was a story where people had been designing these sort of like temporary houses, temporary accommodation for people who had been displaced to sort of live in. And because no women had been consulted in the design of these, all of them were missing something quite vital, which was a kitchen. So, this just shows the importance of making sure, the importance of making sure that you do have diverse voices around the table. People aren't being left out of conversations, because it meant that, yeah, there wasn't sort of a big enough area to people to actually cook in, which I have just, yeah, that's also really stuck with me over the years. The sixth great thing about the SDGs is that they require, I think, a level of creativity, of innovation, and of new solutions that maybe aren't always seen elsewhere, or maybe haven't been seen in other frameworks, because they are really imaginative. They are a triumph of human imagination in some ways. To think about, what a absolutely brilliant, wonderful world could look like by 2030, to dream really, really big, to come up with this really ambitious set of 17 goals. And it will take similar levels of imagination to really reach those. And I am desperately clinging on to my youth, but I think young people are absolutely vital for this. Young people bring new ways of thinking, free-flowing imagination, maybe not as cynical or as sort of jaded. They're sort of so creative. They've got all this energy, all this enthusiasm. And actually, that ultimately is what will deliver the SDGs. So I'm hoping that we're all sort of hanging on to that youthful enthusiasm and energy and can really bring that to sustainable development. And I wanted to just go through like a few examples of what innovation and sort of this new imagination can look like across a whole few different sectors. So innovation in finance, one of my favorite things to talk about is climate resilient debt clauses. Obviously, debt is a really huge problem, particularly at the moment. A lot of countries are facing very difficult headwinds and don't have sort of, are spending more on debt servicing than health and education, which is a really bad situation for the world to be in. And so in the UK and other countries, we've really been championing what we call climate resilient debt clauses, which essentially temporarily pause debt repayments for countries if they suffer a climate shock or health shock. So they can use that extra money to invest in recovering and building resilience to those shocks, which I thought was quite a good example of clever things that you could do to sort of like solve these big global challenges. There are obviously a lot of innovations in AI at the moment. AI is a absolutely huge topic. And this can be anything from, being able to sequence millions of genetic sequences really, really quickly to figure out, how to develop a malaria vaccine, which I think has just launched, curing cancer, etc. So, there's all sorts of incredible work with AI and other kind of innovations in technology being done. And I think the third kind is actually innovations and approaches. So trying new things and not being afraid of taking risks. And I think that's another great thing that young people especially can bring to the party is sort of not being afraid to sort of do things differently or to take some of those risks. So again, I'm going to pause and ask a question to the group, which is, what's one big, bold idea you have for the SDGs? And if it's, I'm sure there are lots of good ideas here, so I'm being greedy and asking for this so I can take some back to RHQ in the Foreign Office. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Ruth. I'll have to ask again. Please confirm if you can hear me. Okay, that's good to go. Thank you. Okay, so
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so our speaker like want to know what is one big bold idea do you have for the SDGs? This is more like having to ask them to think on the spot. A lot of people have a lot of ideas concerning the SDGs, but they feel like you said it needs to be a big bold idea. So is my idea enough? Whether it's enough or not, we just want to hear it, right? Yes, okay. Okay, and I will be taking your responses in the chat box. Do you have like a big bold idea concerning the SDGs? We'd love to hear them. Okay, Catherine Bosari is saying that at Leap Africa, we have driven the Youth Day of Service to promote youth-led actions on the SDGs in Africa for 5 years, with one goal, which is to create a continent-wide community of young change makers that will turn the SDGs aspirations into tangible results. We are raising SDG champions. Oh, that is good to hear. What you guys are doing at Leap Africa. We are super excited to hear that. So let's keep that coming, even as an individual or as an organization. We'd love to hear from you. What is one big, bold idea? Just one. I know you have numerous ideas. I have a lot. I don't even want to share mine right here, but just feel free. Just chip in one or two and say, okay, this is what I'm even thinking. You don't know. Our speaker may just pick up your idea right now and help you refine your thoughts, right? So just share with us in the chat box. What is one big bold idea you have concerning the SDGs? It can be from your community or anywhere, maybe something you've been seeing. I've been saying, oh, it's not supposed to work this way. If we're able to drive sustainable development, things will change, it will be better. So please share with us in the chat box, and I will take them. And or if you want to speak, yes. Do we give a platform for people to speak? Okay, that's fine. Thank you. So if you want to speak, please you can just raise your hand, and we will unmute. Just raise your hand, and we will unmute. Just raise your hand, and we'll unmute, and we'll have you speak. Just a few minutes. What is one big bold idea? Maybe you want to share it with us, and just want to speak. Okay, this is something I've been thinking on over the years. I think this will work when it comes to the SDGs. So please just raise your hand. Okay, Kabri his hands are up. Who else? Charles Mweze. Okay, I would like to take maybe if you have 5, we'll just go ahead because of time. Okay, 5 is cool. Please, you just have 30 seconds. You just have 30 seconds to just share your ideas briefly. Omar, okay, please just ensure that you're not in a noisy background so that we won't have to waste time with that. Okay, one more and we'll just take that after the order. So Kabir, you will go first. Okay, Kabir, just go ahead. Just let us know what unmute, you can unmute.
All right. Thank you so much. Can I be heard?
Yes, yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate you for this wonderful session and our facilitator. I really appreciate. So as regards the one big bold idea I have for SDG, it is connecting local priorities to global agenda. Because I figure out a lot of people are working in silos. The engagements are not recorded over there. And basically, we need to have, especially from the on-the-south community, have their ideas, perspective, their global agenda, thereby leaving no one behind. I'm big on SDG 6, 7, 13, and 17. So that's my take. Thank you.
Thank you, Kabri, for sharing. I want to confirm if our speaker got that. Ruth, did you get that? The contribution from Kabri.
Yeah, really, really, really important point that I've actually got a bit later in the presentation too. So definitely really keen to hear more about that and a really, really good reflection. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kabri, for adding your voice to driving the SDGs. And we're super excited to know that we have young people who are not just interested in one sustainable development goal, but they're connecting it to other goals and ensuring that the SDGs is actualized. So we'll move ahead because of time. We'll just go ahead to Charles. Charles, please go ahead. 30 seconds, please.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I
Good
think
morning,
I can be heard now. Yeah, thank
yes,
you.
loud and
This is
clear.
not my first time. This is not my first time being engaged with the Nigerian Youth SDGs, and I will say very big shout out and thank you. What's my big idea about the SDGs in Nigeria is having a united fora where everybody is connected, where there's proper networking, because you may have your idea and another person has another different idea, but bringing them up all together is what the SDGs talks about. Like I said, I am keenly a medical student, NIMSA, Nigerian Medical Association SDGs. So we had a program on SDGs 3 on those normal quality healthcare and the rest. And then we moved over to education, linking quality education with healthcare. And then climate came in. Just have a lot of things to link them together about. And one thing, doing one, you're doing the other. So my big idea is just a regulated fora where we have everybody, like a forum where everybody can share ideas together, and we materialize them, bringing them from as the previous speaker said, bring them from the trenches to the world view. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Charles. And I must say that it's interesting to know that you've been following Nigeria Youth SDGs and you're right here live. Right here live. Can you just remind when did you join or when did you start following Nigeria Youth SDGs?
Okay, that was about almost 3 years back or 2 years back. There was this conference they had, a consultation with Nigerian youth in SDGs. So I spoke them. I was representing the medical students in Nigeria, and I spoke. And since then, I've always enjoyed the company of Nigerian Youth SDGs. Also on the 2030, on the 2030 Global Driving Agenda of United Nations, the group chat, I always see the engagement of the founders of Nigerian SDGs there. So I really love being a member and being attached with the Nigerian SDGs.
Okay, thank you so much, Charles. It's great to have you here and to share the forum. And that is one thing we're also doing, right? Lagos People Assembly and what the Youth SDGs Cafe is about, is bringing people together in a unified forum. Thank you for sharing. Okay, we don't have time, so we'll just take one person. Apologies for that. We'll just take one more person so that our speaker can go ahead with our presentation, and we'll have a lot of Q&As, and you are free to ask your questions and get your responses. So I'm trying to choose. I need a female. So is this Habila? Habila, you a lady? If you're a lady, we need gender balance. Please unmute your mic.
I am a lady. My name is Umar Shamsia.
Okay, great to have you. Please, Umar, please shoot. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi. Good morning.
Yes, we
Can you
can
hear
hear
me?
you.
Please, I'm
Yes,
not sure
loud
if
and
you can.
clear. Loud
Okay,
and
that's
clear.
perfect. Okay, my big idea is something similar to what the first speaker says, because we know that the SDG is all about leaving no one behind. But honestly, we have been leaving people at the community far behind, because I work towards SDG goal 10, that's reduce inequality, basically work towards empowerment of persons with disabilities, but I deal more with the community. So not just reduce inequality, I'm into SDG goal 3, 4, 5, 8, 10, and then goal 13. So we had a program on, in collaboration with sustainable building blocks. We had a program on recycling plastic bottles into accessories, basically plastic waste. And we went to a school in Nasarawa State, and that was the first time they're even hearing about what SDG is. And believe me, that's not the first school or the first place I've gone to actually find out that they have no idea what the SDG is all about. So I think we should be more looking more into going to communities and educating them their own unique ways, because we are more focused on organizing events, maybe coming online, talking, and then those people at the community are left behind. So why are we advocating for reduced inequality in the first place if we at the center are going forward and then we are leaving a whole lot of people behind? So basically that's my great idea. And it has always been wonderful being at Nigeria Youth SDG. I actually volunteered also in 2019 in Kaduna State with Yunus, but he no longer works with the Youth SDG too. So that's my little contribution. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Omar. I love a point that you've raised about not just we talking about the SDGs alone, but localizing the solutions going into the community. So right now, I'm just going to hand over to our speaker to go ahead, and we'll wrap up shortly.
Brilliant. Thanks so much. And that was a really, really, really good point there about sort of, raising awareness of the SDGs. Because actually, as soon as people find out what the SDGs are, they're like, oh, I want to do that. That sounds nice. That sounds good. So yeah, I think like that is a really important point, and great points on sort of connecting people as well. I think that was a really strong theme from those reflections. So thank you for those. Also, praise, just to check, is this till 12:30 or 12? Just so I know how quickly to speak.
Okay, this is 11:56 a.m. So it's almost
Oh,
12 p.m. Yes.
cool. So does this session go on till 12:30 or till 12?
It's till 12:30, but we'll need some time to let people ask their questions. So yes, have some time to let people ask their questions, and also give us like a feedback. We'll have the feedback form for them to fill their feedback, and that's it.
Fantastic. I just wanted to make sure I didn't have to speak really quickly to finish the slides in 3 minutes. So thank you for confirming. So on number 7, the SDGs give us a really good sense of sort of target measures and actually really importantly, accountability. So, if you're thinking about a community project, etc., actually looking at the SDG targets and what you want to move towards can be really, really helpful. I find that they're also a good way of keeping our governments, our leaders accountable for their promises. It's like, in 2015, you signed up to this thing. We really need to get on and deliver it. And actually having that sort of globally agreed framework can be really, really important in giving that accountability. We also, all probably understand and recognize the absolute vitality of data. Unless we have good data, good high quality data, we don't know who or what needs more help, more attention. And actually that 15% target, that sort of 15% target I mentioned. Thank you. That 15% target I mentioned last year was actually, I think, one of the things that really woke the world up to sort of the need to really go faster and go further on the SDGs again. And actually, I think, one of the best things I found about the use of data is data is really powerful. It is a way of storytelling. I am a massive nerd, but it's not just for nerds. Data is actually a really good way of driving impact. And I think, some of the best examples I've seen of real change makers have been because they've gone out, spoken to local communities about the issues they're facing, gotten the data to say, this is how it's really impacting people's lives. This is why, you government or you, my local councillor, etc., should really be working to change this. So actually having that sort of qualitative and quantitative data that shows what a problem is a really, really powerful mechanism. And this sort of brings me on to a key SDG challenge, which is actually like the fact that data is sometimes quite sparse, is quite scarce on the ground. Even in the UK, we have a lot of trouble really trying to figure out how to get all 200 something indicators in the SDG framework covered by the right kinds of data. So the more we can kind of, find that at the local level, actually, the better. Going on to reason number 8, why the SDGs are awesome. I might also be about to be joined by my friend's kitten who is staying with me currently. So apologies if you see a tail suddenly emerge on screen. I promise it's not mine. But biodiversity is good. We like life on land. Let's see if I can move the presentation along. There we go. Now this slide is one that I think is really important. And I think is a really important sort of global conversation at the moment that's going on. And that is, the SDGs provide us with a really important language and psychology of opportunity. I think we all know how important language can be. Language creates our reality, it creates our action or inaction. And actually, something that's going on at the moment that's a really interesting conversation is how we now want to refer to different groups of countries and people. Like, for example, in my own work, I've come across a lot of people talking about sort of the poorest and most vulnerable or people furthest behind. And I think a few of us found that language actually didn't feel quite right. It didn't really sit right with us. And actually, is it that people are furthest behind, which sort of implies that they have done something that means they're further behind? Or is it that they're being left behind? And that might seem like a small difference, but actually, if we're thinking about the way we talk about people and the impact that has on them, the impact that might have on their psychology, that difference becomes really important. And actually, recently I was at a meeting with a sort of Zambian High Commissioner based in the UK, based in London. And she said something that I thought was really powerful, which is, we've got the sort of landlocked, least developed country conference happening this year in Rwanda in June. And she was like, I don't consider Zambia landlocked, I consider it land linked. And I know that other sort of small island developing states have said a similar thing, like, why are we called small island developing states when actually we're large ocean states? Because we have, a huge amount of ocean and natural resources around us from the ocean that we are protecting. So actually there's like a really big global conversation on how to refer to like global north, global south, that I think is really important and really interesting. And something I sort of came across listening to a good talk by two Senegalese thinkers recently about sort of Africa's energy transition, is their point was actually a lot of investors, have this misconception of risk when sort of like thinking about investing in certain bits of the continent. But actually, a really important way of mobilizing more investment is to shift the narrative. I think his quote was, Africa isn't a risk, Africa is solutions, Africa is opportunity, a huge youth demographic, some of the world's biggest carbon sinks, some of the world's, most arable land. And I thought that really sort of stuck with me, that actually shifting the narrative in a whole bunch of ways is really important to drive action. And I think there's a need to sort of shift that narrative on the SDGs too. I think, something I see a lot, and I don't know if others do as well, is this sort of like pessimism that sets in, being like, the SDGs are too broad. How can we possibly deliver them? Or like, they're so off track. How can we get back on track? And actually, I think that now the focus really needs to be on shifting to a narrative of optimism, of opportunity and acceleration, because that's what will motivate people to action. And psychology is also hugely important in moving from poverty to power and inspiring action on the SDGs. And something, I've come across in my own work as well is realizing that actually, so in the UK, I come from an area that has been sort of quite deprived. My parents didn't do the whole university thing really. And something sort of that I experienced along with others was actually sometimes just having your horizons expanded and what's normal expanded can be super, super powerful in motivating young people, especially to sort of go more and sort of do more and go further. So actually sort of like one of the biggest differences I found between those that have maybe grown up in poverty versus those that sort of like, maybe were privately educated, which is a big thing in the UK, wasn't necessarily that, one was smarter, etc., or had a magic wand that meant they were better. What it was is sometimes, if your parents were doctors, surgeons, or lawyers, that would feel normal to you. But if your parents sort of didn't have those professions, maybe you wouldn't sort of like really know what the opportunities were for you. So actually, if we can do one thing, especially for young people, it's to broaden that horizon and make sure that they see role models, they see the opportunity and understand that, anything is really possible for them. That's something that I feel really, really passionately about. We're almost there, I promise. Only 2 more slides to go, and then we can hear everyone else's brilliant reflections. Yeah, and I think this is, the ninth point is that the SDGs can be implemented at every level. And I think these points were made really well by others earlier. And actually, you don't have to wait for government to deliver the SDGs. Sometimes the local levels, arguably, are some of the most important for accelerating progress because you can have so much more of an impact sort of within your own town, within your own community, even within your own sort of like workplace, etc. So this is the idea of thinking global but acting local. And actually, there are a lot of shifts at the moment within sort of sustainable development spaces towards recognizing the impact of local leadership and local ownership. The idea really being that people know their needs best. And actually, I've seen so many interventions go wrong because local knowledge hasn't been taken into account. And actually, local people haven't been involved in the creation of those interventions or solutions. So this is something that is really, really, really important. And I've got a question there that Praise maybe we can return to after others have shared their reflections on, what local solutions people have seen implemented that have been really impactful. But the 10th and final reason why I think the SDGs are super duper awesome is that they inspire a lot of hope. So the SDGs are big, they are bold, and they are ambitious, but that is definitely on purpose. They want us to raise our own bar of what is possible, what is feasible. And actually, I think at the moment, with climate change, etc., people are sort of thinking, how can humanity survive? But for me, the SDGs actually chart a course for how humanity can thrive, like, how we can move not just to something that's not worse or just the same, but actually is so, so much better. And I really believe passionately that hope is easier to hold on to when you have something you're pulling not just away from, but actually you're moving towards. And that sort of very clear roadmap that the SDGs provide for me is sort of my like purpose. It's what pulls me forward and gets me up every day. And I think, sometimes other people might have this as well, but people sort of look at me and think, how can you possibly think that we can deliver the SDGs? A lot of cynicism. I almost think of me as quite, maybe naive in some quarters, but this is why I really like the quote that I've got on screen, which is, hope isn't naive or weak. Hope is gritty, it's painful. Hope is getting up every time, dusting the mud off yourself and keeping going. So another question I'd be really interested to hear people's point of views on is, what keeps you hopeful that the future can definitely be better than, the present that we are currently in. So to summarize, I wanted to end with another quote, which actually comes from one of my favorite bits of scripture, and actually was featured in a article written by 3 African heads of state on sort of reforming the international financial architecture. And that was faith without works is dead. And actually, this idea that, we can wait on other people to change the world, but we might be waiting a really, really long time. And actually, the SDGs give us all a superpower, which is that everyone and anyone from my 13-year-old sister to, my foreign secretary, David Cameron, can have a role to play in delivering them. So as cliche as it sounds, everyone here genuinely has the power to change the world. And through the fantastic work that, this SDG Youth Cafe is doing, you already definitely are. So thank you so much for listening to me. I hope some of that was useful. And I'm really looking forward to our discussion now. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Ruth. Thank you so much, Ruth. That was insightful, that was rich, that was enlightening, and that was empowering. So thank you so much for the session. I jotted a whole lot of things down. I'll start with the part where you mentioned intentionality, that it takes a certain level of intentionality to achieve what we desire to achieve. You also talked about expanding our horizon and building on the question of what are the bold steps we are taking to, take actions to get to where we want to be by linking and implementing the SDGs that we have. And then concluding, you mentioned something about our superpower. Each of us has a superpower. I think someone asked, I'm trying to remember her name, she made a comment about having to localize the SDG in the part where she comes from in Nigeria, and having to not necessarily wait for the government to take action when she can actually take the action. And it's, I say it's an admonition to everyone that we have a part to play. So I'm going to taking questions now. If you have a question for Ruth, or if you have any comment, kindly raise your hand up, and then I'll give numbers so where it's organized and it's accordingly. So if you have a question for Ruth, you have a question you'd like to ask, or you have a comment you'd love to share with everyone, kindly raise your hand up, and then I'll call you up to ask your question. Okay, let everyone kind of mute, please. Okay, Charles. A minute, please. I'm trying to mute someone. Okay, yeah, Charles, let's have you.
Okay, I'm back again. I
All
was
right,
trying to
welcome.
ask if we can make a call to the government, because the SDGs cannot fund itself. You have a lot of very good ideas, but to materialize them out, when you call for sponsorship and donation from the little elites in the society, they cannot be able to donate to the amount that will be enough for you to host a program or carry out an outreach to help people. But if we call on the government, like an open letter, we release to them, like an open letter telling them to sponsor SDGs. Like I know in many states, for example, I'm not trying to throw shades on any states here, but like I'm just born from Plateau State, and we have a commissioner for SDGs, but there's practically no SDGs activity that has been carried out. Most government officials use SDGs to loot money. If you can call out all these things in not in a wicked trend on Twitter, but like an open letter to government officials and those in power to fund the SDGs. People in some areas are dying because they do not have the essential access or basic needs provided, because most SDGs campaigns are not funded that are aimed to elevating such situations. If we can, my appeal is if we can make it possible to have an open air letter, even if it's the president of the federation. SDGs gives you a lot of power. You can actually do that. So we can actually come up with a plan calling on governments to fund SDGs and get SDGs organizations to be properly registered with the government, so that they can have most of the fundings done at ease instead of having a lot of issues at the background. And I think this is one of the things that I want to be addressed. And then the other again is Sorry, it's going to take a little time, but like equity and balance in SDGs. For example, we talk about the climate change, and I always keep on hammering on this climate change injustice that we face. The speaker, I'm not being biased, but if you check the net carbon production in Africa, we produce only just about 4% compared to Russia, China, India, and the US. But we're the one that face the brunt of the sanctions on um, carbon fossils, fossil fuel, and the others. But if we can call on the world to address where or what matters most, address.
Okay, Charles, I think there's a glitch in your network. We cannot hear you. Can anyone hear Charles? Okay, so I'll take it up from there. So Charles's question is towards formalizing a letter. Okay, it's back online.
Okay.
Okay, Charles, can you keep it brief because of time?
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
I'm talking about the climate balance now and justice. If we can write, or possibly, I know UNSDs always have representative at the General Council or most years. If we can have a voice in a way through the government and get it done that SDGs and climate change should be done with equity, because we cannot be going into the villages to preach to women that do not know much about fossil fuel when the major producers of the fossil fuel are the one giving sanctions to the lesser countries. We need balance and justice to be done for the climate activities to be balanced by 2030. And I believe if we go through equity and justice in delivering the SDGs, it will be much more faster in everything we do. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Charles. Ruth, do you want respond to that question now, or should I call on the next question? We just answer all the questions at once together.
I'm really happy to respond as we go, also, so I remember everyone's excellent questions, if that sounds good.
All right, that's great.
Brilliant. I think Charles, you raise a really important point, which is that there can't really be climate action without climate justice. And it is very unjust that, the majority of the climate impacts that the world will face will fall on countries who probably did the least damage to the climate. That is absolutely fundamental. I think, there are a few different ways that this can be mitigated, but I think particularly actually at this year's UN High-Level Political Forum, which is sort of the annual forum on the SDGs to review progress, SDG 13 on climate action will actually be under review. And, I think those conversations will definitely be coming up. And it's really good actually to hear sort of like those perspectives. So thank you so much for sharing that. And yeah, I agree. It's a really, really important issue.
All right, thank you, Ruth, for that. Thank you for the response. MM, I saw your hands up. Do you still have any question, or should we move forward to the next person? I saw MM's hand up, and I saw Umar's hand up. So if you have questions, or if you don't feel like talking, please input your question in the chat box, and we'll be sure to read it out from there. Okay. All right, Ruth. Thank you for this presentation so far. We're really, will I say blessed? Yes, that's a good word to use. We've been blessed by this presentation also. And you made mention of hope keeping us going, even in pain. And that is where we need the SDGs. And also in line with Charles's question about, let's say, localizing the solutions. So someone in a village will not necessarily understand what fossils mean. Someone in the village might not necessarily understand what climate change mean, but they will understand, oh, you have to plant trees. Oh, you have to take these little steps to get to where you want to be. Oh, you have to do these little things that are going to create a bigger change. So it's very, very beautiful and very, very, will I say, insightful. Yes, and that we're not just theorizing it, but we're also taking practical steps to get there. So I have a question also. Um, it's number 4. I think you also shed light, a bit of light on that. I'm going to read it out now. We believe that achieving the UN SDGs is also about partnerships. As youth, how do we foster collaboration and knowledge sharing among different stakeholders, that is government, NGOs, academia, private sector, to maximize the impact of poverty reduction initiatives? I think it's also in line with Charles' question when you mentioned, oh, we want to write letters to the government or to the president, but they are actually bodies that are already set up. Like I know, for instance, you have Lagos State SDGs office in Lagos State, and I'm sure that they also have it in various states across the country. But how can we, partner with these organizations to minimize, will I say, what's the word now? Minimize the impact of poverty initiatives in the country. Thank you.
Yeah, really, really fantastic question. And I mean, SDG 17 was sort of like set up because of the importance of partnerships to achieving all of the goals. And I think, a few people have said this during the presentation as well, is that part of it is just understanding what other people are doing so you can sort of like really share those insights. And actually, there are so many brilliant ideas out there, as you say, it's just about sometimes connecting them to make them even more impactful. So I think there are a few different things that I would say. I think one is, forums like this are incredibly vital and helpful. And actually having a network of people who know people who know people who you can start to bring together and coalesce around a few key issues is a really, really smart idea. And that's something I think, we've been trying to do ourselves to turn that sort of talk from like to actual action, actual concrete steps. And I think that's why Charles's ideas of letter is actually, writing letters to the right people can actually be quite an impactful one, as it's a way of getting different people who are thinking about an issue maybe in the room with the people who can make decisions on that issue. And actually, that can be a really powerful way of bringing people together to build those partnerships that you can then take forwards. And I think the third is just sort of, setting up forums. Obviously, this is like one of those forums. There might be others where you want to bring different kinds of stakeholders around the table, like, private sector institutions, researchers, academics, and actually, maybe linking it to a UN event coming up, like the High Level Political Forum, holding roundtables on particular SDGs or particular problems and trying to generate solutions can build that sense of partnership camaraderie that can then sort of deliver that real tangible action. So there are lots of really big creative ideas out there on how to do that. And yeah, I just agree that that is the absolute key fundamental thing. So yeah, keep convening people. It's the way we're going to deliver the goals. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for that response. Actively engaging forums like this. So that's why I say introduce yourself and connect in the chat box. Okay, you don't know who you're connecting with, and it's not just about who you're connecting with. It's about making impact and collaborating. So all hands are on deck. Kabir has a question. I'm going to Kabir, you're going to unmute yourself and ask your question. So kindly keep it brief and straight to the point because of our time. And also, I'm going to send a feedback form in the chat box. Please, everyone, endeavor to like click the link and fill the form. Kabir, let's have you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ruth. I really enjoy those conversations. I must admit that. Yeah, I have a little contribution, not a question actually, but I will still want to ask questions after my contribution. Yeah. So my contribution basically is I want to urge every individual, particularly on this platform or who will be listening to this later, that SDGs are not just mere goals. These are goals that we have to be intentional about if we want to take the good action as is expected. So I would urge us to find a goal, at least one goal, that you are most passionate about. Learn the intricacies, take actions locally, harmonize those actions with global agenda, and take those things global. So afterwards, tell good stories to inspire people, and because your actions, however little, inspires someone out there. we today that we are engaging in conversation as regard SDGs, we listen to someone's conversation that inspired us to have started this today. So don't keep those stories just within yourself. Let it out. Let people get inspired with it. I don't know. There would be time for me to discuss a bit about my own track when it comes to SDGs. As at 2022 December, I was inspired by someone that I look forward to. He at a webinar like this. So the individual inspired us that we should find a goal, just like I mentioned earlier, that we should find a goal. And I think I hold on to all those conversations and I took action as regards those conversations. And today I am so much glad that I have made milestones when it comes to SDGs. Because I mentioned in the chat box earlier that I currently work with among the core team working with the Ogun SDGs, the SSA to Ogun SDGs. I'm working with the person. And also, I once participated for the World Youth Parliament for Water President last year. And also, currently, I have a business that I hold on to creating impacts in water sustainability because I have a background in water resources management and sanitation, and I studied geophysics as well. So those are the things around what inspired my action when it comes to SDGs. And I think I learned so much as regards to SDG 7 as well, which is energy and climate action. I'm working towards that as well. So basically, I would want to inspire everyone today to be intentional about the SDG goals we are choosing and ensure we have tracks of local actions and make sure we connect those local actions to global agenda to have those impacts recorded as expected.
I was muted. Okay, thank you, Kabir. Thank you for that. You, in one word, I would say you started from where you are to get to where you are right now, and you made use of what you had at your disposal to, make impacts and get to where you are, and it's really beautiful. So well done. Right now we're wrapping up, but I have one last question for Ruth. I think all of us will benefit from it. It's more like one word of advice for us. So I'm going to read question. So with 6 years left to achieve the UN SDGs, what would you rather say to young people and development organizations who are working tirelessly but losing hope towards pushing for a more prosperous future because its statistics and fact sheets aren't adding up? I know you already made mention of hope and pushing through even through the pain. So I'd like you to, shed more light on that and, answer the question. Thank you, Ruth.
It's a really beautiful question. And it's a really, really tough question. It's probably one of the most important questions, that could be asked. And I think for me, it really is that point on like, it sounds so cliche, but just find ways of not giving up. I think because of how tough it is, everyone is going to face a decision at some point, a kind of almost crisis of faith. I know I have sometimes where it's like, do you just give up on the SDGs? Do you give up on sort of making a better world and just sort of accept it as it is? Or do you somehow, without going slightly insane, keep your faith, keep strong, and keep going? And I think for me, I always just think about the end state, which is a better world for all by 2030. And that is just a dream that I am not willing to give up on and I'm willing to, give all of my fight to. So I think, don't sometimes be afraid of having those moments of doubt, those moments of faith, but then get up the next day and continue the good work. It can sometimes seem impossible, but everything that has seemed impossible but has been done has then felt like inevitable. So somehow keep the faith, keep going, and keep lifting each other up. I think Kabir's point on sharing success stories, sharing inspiration, is so important, and know that you're not in this fight alone, that there are hundreds of millions of people out there in the world working towards the same aims, doing amazing things. It's just about connecting with each other and keeping each other strong. And yeah, keep moving towards that dream, that end state, that vision. So yeah, it's hard to do, but I think if I had one piece of advice, that would be it. You know, we can't give up, because we know what the alternative is if we do.
All right, thank you so much, Ruth. Um, that was That was insightful. You mentioned something. You said find ways to not give up. So even if there are obstacles, normally what we do, we always have a plan for success. Always have a plan. Okay, if plan A doesn't work for success, or for me to find a way to work around the SDGs, plan B will work. But now we're saying, if either of those plans don't work, come up with another plan of not failing, of okay, what if I feel I have to get another plan to get back up again and keep moving. So that is really beautiful, and everyone is actually capable of doing great things. Everyone is actually capable of making impact. Ruth used her sister as an example, a 13-year-old sister already making impact, and inspiring. And even from, when I say from the least person to the biggest person, how you rate those adjectives in your word, everyone is capable of change and making impact. And we are, let's say, in as much as we have 6 years, 6 years looks like such a short time, 2030, to achieve the SDGs. But we have to, I mean, we've been taking steps together. As much as we still have a long way to go, we have to keep moving, we have to keep pushing. Because if everyone decides to stop or not to take any action, there's not going to be any change. So the change comes when we take action and when we make the necessary steps. So thank you so much, Ruth. Thank you for joining us. This session was calm, it was insightful, it was empowering, it was knowledgeable. A lot of persons were able to relate very well with some of the stories that I shared. I remember the one you mentioned about Sri Lanka and about the project they were doing, and that they forgot how you forgot to impute a kitchen there. And that's not, embracing everybody in terms of inclusivity and knowing what everyone thinks, because everyone's opinion actually matter. So thank you so much for that. There's a feedback form that I'm going to share in the chat box below. So kindly fill the form by using the link that I'm going to share now, so we can have a view of, will I say, our knowledge and steps that we're taking to achieve the SDGs. Okay. Oh, it's already 12:31. We're supposed to end by 12:30. Okay. My colleague already shared the link via the chat box. So please do well to fill the form. I think this was a very, very beautiful event. I would like for a participant to, if you feel like, oh, you want to say a very big thank you to Ruth, or you want to pass a short comment, please raise your hand up and I'll call on you. Just a board. It's not going to be long, maybe 45 seconds to a minute, and then we'll be out of here. And also, you can share your learnings on social media. You can tag us. I think you can. Ruth, is it okay if they tag you also on social media by sharing their learnings? All right, that's brilliant. So you can also share your learnings from today's session, and to be so, so beautiful. Hey, Taufik, let's have you. Let's have you.
So, all right, thank you very much. I really appreciate and enjoying this session, as it was a thought-provoking one and inspiring and amazing, yet a educative session. I would just like to encourage each and every one of us to take part in this change and in this SDG goals. And one of my favorite quotes is that of Barack Obama, which says, change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the change we've been waiting for, we are the change we seek. So, in that wise, I would just like to encourage us, as Bolu has said the other time, if we probably want to, like, feeling we are tired of probably the goals. They are so enormous to achieve. By this time, if we just stop, we are not going to get anywhere, and there is not going to be change by 2030. So we should just keep moving, keep pushing, and yeah, we should be hopeful. And I think, as aside being hopeful, choosing an SDGs which is related to what you are player about, and you can actually gain insight about it, really keep on moving, because at some point, if you want to like drop off, you would think about the fact that I'm really deriving pleasure from this thing, and I see that I'm making impact and creating changes. So those are my word of advice to everybody, that we should keep moving and keep going. Thank you very much, Roots Lions, and thank you, NG Youth SDGs, for this amazing session. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you, Taufik, for that. That was beautiful. Thank you for those kind words, and thank you for spurring us on to do better and be the change we want to see. Okay, so everybody, we've come to the end of today's session. If you're still online, okay, we have 40 participants online. Kindly unmute yours. Sorry, turn on your camera. Let's take a picture, a virtual picture. So you can turn on your camera and you can take a virtual picture of the event. So we're doing that in the next 3 seconds. So 1, 2, 3.
Hi,
Okay.
Chess. I think you should
Praise
just give
you
them.
have
Yeah,
it.
can you hear me? No, not yet. Please, some minutes so that I can get everybody on the screen.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes, the
Okay.
cameras are coming on. Thank you so much. I can see a lot of people. Oh, Charles, it's great to finally see your face. So we have a lot of people joining us.
But I can't
Please just
unmute
make sure
Hi,
your
myself.
background
Taufik.
is
The
beautiful,
video is
right? Just make sure you're in a cool, good place. But if you're not, it's still good and fine.
the video is actually muted, so I'm
Oh,
unable
can you hear
to.
me?
I can hear you, but the video is muted.
Bruce,
Who is speaking? But we are good to go.
that's
Not
Ruth.
okay,
Ruth
I will
No,
Dial.
for me here, I can't connect because I can't see the video. The video is actually muted,
You can turn on your
and I'm
video, Ruth.
I'm trying to turn it on, and then it
Yeah,
says
even me,
you
sef, I can't
cannot.
turn
Your
up my
video,
video. It's saying that me,
the host
decline me
has
for turning on
disabled it.
video.
Okay, please, if you have a question, please raise your hand so that we'll ensure that we are all together and we are more organized. If you have a question or a complaint, just drop it on the comment box and we get our team fix that. So apologies about that. Just drop your complaint if your video is not turning on. Okay, Eniola, we are going to check what the issue is and we'll fix it right away. Also sorry about that. We have a lot of people joining already. Okay, the people who've not taken their pictures, we have to put them.
Admin, please allow me to turn off my video call, please.
Please mute your mic and just drop your complaint in the group chat, please. I think that would be a better approach to solving the issue. Okay. We're so excited to have a lot of people join us. I can't even see myself, but I'm seeing amazing people. Seeing amazing people here. Okay. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to get everyone joined. Okay. Okay, I think we've taken some pictures. So if your video was not on, please put on your video. Please put on your video so that we can have a virtual picture. I'm seeing someone, so I don't know if the person is smiling or not. Please just smile. Is a picture. Is a picture. Chiamaka, can I see your smile? You're not smiling. Can you smile? So that we'll have a very lovely picture. Yes, that is it. That is it. Yes. We can't get everybody, but we are excited to have you all join us. Apologies for the delay. So we are just trying to make sure that we get a lot of people joining us. Okay. Okay, I think we are almost good to go. A second, we're almost good to go. And yes, I just want to confirm if my colleague have been able to also take a virtual picture from our end. Have you done that, please?
Yes, I have. Can you smile?
Okay, thank you all for joining us. We are super excited to have you all join us. It has been amazing. It has been amazing. I see a lot of people all over the country. Thank you so much to our speaker, Ruth Lyons. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being part of this session. So like what we said, the feedback form is actually on the chat box. Please use it to fill your learnings. Just share with us, was this fantastic? Are you coming for the next Use SDGs Cafe? Are you coming for the next Use SDGs Cafe? Let us know what you're expecting next. If probably just put out a guess. Okay, I guess the topic is going to be this. And you can also recommend, oh, I want to hear this person speak. We have this lion that came all the way from the UK, and she'll be super excited to join us next time. Right? Just let me know. Ruth, are you available for a next conversation? Are you available if we call on you next time?
Oh, anytime you want me, I'll be here. I've really enjoyed this. I've learned a lot. So even if I'm just listening, I'd be more than happy to come and hear everyone's great ideas.
Oh, thank you so much, Ruth. So we're super excited to have everybody join us. Thank you for joining. Please make sure you fill this feedback form and also follow us across on our social media channel at NGYouthSDGs. You can follow us on our Twitter, on Facebook, and NGYouthSDGs, on LinkedIn, NGYouthSDGs network. We are super excited to connect. When you share your learnings, we'll be sure to leave a comment for you too, and also to ensure that we engage with you. So we are super excited to have all of you join us and stay to the end of the meeting. It means a lot to us, honestly. Thank you so much
Yeah, it
for
does.
joining us. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you all. Thank you. Ocheche, over to you.
All right, so that's a wrap, guys. Bye. So enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to start from where you are with whatever you have. So thank you.